Hi, I'm Bill Attardi. Welcome to LearnersLive.com. We're going to talk about something you may not know. So far this year on e-learning showcase, we've posted some interesting learning sessions. We started in January with effective sales presentation skills, and then in February, selling in the executive suite. Last month was SWOT analysis using generative artificial intelligence. And now we're going to do custom centric in the digital age. No, I'm sorry. Let's start. Can we start over again?
Sure, no problem.
All right, let me start over again. But this is, we did April already, right? Okay. Let me go back. Let me start over again. Hi, this is Bill Attardi, and welcome to LearnersLive.com. We're going to talk about something maybe you just don't know. Anyway, in the last couple of months, we have posted on e-learning showcase some learning sessions. In January, we did effective sales presentation skills. In February, selling in the executive suite. In March, SWOT analysis using generative artificial intelligence. In April, consumer-centric in the digital age. And now we're going to do innovation in the digital age. That's a follow-up to the April session. Innovation in the digital age has a lot of implications to most businesses, and we'll talk about that. But first, we need to do our commercial. This particular month, our sponsor is Fanlight with the brand Natural LED. And I want to thank Frank Grubmeyer for sending me this particular video.
I'm going to let you in on a little trick some brands use to promote their products. These brands love to toss around the word durable. You've seen it on almost every spec sheet, brochure, catalog, product review, and so on. There's no way for someone to verify these claims until they've actually bought it and used it. By that point, they already have the sale. The Natural LED product line is put through some of the most rigorous testing in extreme conditions available. So when we say Natural LED fixtures are truly built to last, we mean it. But don't take my word for it. See for yourself.
This particular session is about innovation in the digital age. And this all comes from a book by Clayton Christensen from Harvard University. It's called The Innovator's Dilemma. And if you haven't read that book, I think I highly recommend it. If you're into new product development and innovation and want to know what needs to be done in today's environment, this is a terrific guideline for you to understand. Basically, Dr. Christensen talks about three things that are all customer-centric. Disruptive innovation, which is a discontinuous market shift from the few to the many. Sustaining innovation, which is just a continuation, really, of old products that you improve. And efficiency, reducing the cost of making and distributing existing products. But before we get into that, if you remember last month, the topic was about customer-centric. And I asked a question of each of you as to what really drives your business. It's not just customer-centric, because all businesses are customer-centric. But what makes you different than the competitor out there from everybody else? And I put some examples down on certain companies that these are the drivers. These are the centrics that make those companies stand out to their customer base. What's yours? In order to understand new product development, and this is something that I'm going to get a little academic for you a little bit now. New product development really deals with 7 different stages. And let me go through these very quickly before I get into the innovation side. First of all, what's your overall strategy with respect to new product development? What's the tone in your business? What's the message you give to your target markets about developing and improving existing products? That's stage one. And that has to be communicated to your organization, to your manufacturing side, your marketing side, your financial side, and the image that you have in the marketplace with respect to new product development. The second stage is idea generation. And where do you get those ideas? Certainly you get them internally, but don't forget to outsource ideas externally as well. Your customers could be a viable reach in order to get ideas to create new products. The third stage is the screening of the idea. Will the product sell? How much is it going to cost you to make it? Can you produce it effectively? That's stage three. And then, as I said, it's a money deal. Business analysis, how much is it going to cost you? Can you identify the price constraints? What's your competitor doing with that particular product? Those are considerations, and that's stage four. Stage 5 and 6 deals with the development of the product. First, developing the product and then taking it in a test area. Test marketing becomes important to determine whether or not it has any particular benefit to the customer. And then finally, it's stage 7, which is to commercialize the product, to launch it. And you can do it regionally, nationally. You have to train people on the new product and introducing it. We got to make enough to satisfy the needs that you anticipate. So what I'm talking about is all new product development. And I repeat what the umpire said, it ain't nothing till the customer makes the call. Let me increase this discussion a little bit by getting into what I call innovation in the digital age. Innovation, as I said, is disruptive, sustaining, and efficiency. Let's cover them one at a time. Disruptive innovation. I want to try to give you a clear understanding of what Dr. Christensen is talking about when he talks about disruptive innovations. First of all, it changes everything. It's a very big change in the marketplace. It creates a new market in some cases, and very big. Starts with a product with mass appeal, big mass appeal. It can have a small startup business can become very big doing this kind of innovation. It displaces and overtakes incumbent players in a big way. It can adopt an advanced technology, and some of these technologies really have a big influence on the marketplace. And another big event is that it is a substantial job creator. This creates more jobs than any innovation that we can think of. So let's think about this as a discontinuous market shift from the few to the many. And let me give you some examples. The first one was the wheel, right? Way back when. Some of you may have been around back then, but I don't know. Anyway, the wheel, I think, was the first disruptive innovation of humankind. Then I think one of the most dramatic disruptive innovations of all time happened in 1440, and that's the Guggenheim printing press. From the few to the many. Now we were connecting people by communicating more information to more people, and this was back in 1440. Then, of course, the Model T. Henry Ford didn't discover the car. He just mass-produced it from the few to the many. And then our friend Thomas Edison, and the reason why many of us made a nice living in the lighting business is it all started with a disruptive innovation, the incandescent light bulb. Another disruptive innovation I think we can all agree on is the computer. Bill Gates said, every home, every workplace, one day is going to have a computer on their desk. And it's certainly a disruptive innovator. The first phone that was made in 1876 by Alexander Graham Bell was a disruptive innovator. It was the first time that we were able to communicate long distance, but it was nothing like the cell phone. Talk about the few to the many. There's 8 million people in this world, and last count was almost 7 billion people have a cell phone of some sort or another. That is unbelievable. That's what I mean when I say it's a continuous market shift from the few to the many. Every single one of these are a disruptive innovation and define that specific definition. Okay, the smartphone. Let's take a minute and talk about that, because this is one of the most disruptive innovations ever created. It's a complete communication and entertainment device today. It's really not a phone completely. 10% is used as a phone. Let me put down all the things that a phone, and you can probably think of more things, but it's got 9 million apps. You can email, text, get music, camera, videos, FaceTime, news, internet, contacts, interconnectivity, information, on and on and on. This is not just a phone anymore. Disruptive innovation from a few to the many, very, very successfully. In fact, so successful for Apple, they went from 15,000 employees and almost going bankrupt. If you remember, before Steve Jobs rejoined them, the company was almost going bankrupt. Now they have 175,000 employees and a market cap of over $3 trillion. Unbelievable increase based on a disruptive innovation, the cell phone. I tried to give my mom a cell phone, and she said, get out of my life. The only phone I want is hanging on the wall in my kitchen, and that's the phone, okay? So anyway, there's some people that don't agree with all the things that are changing in this world, and my mom was one of them. Anyway, let me give you just a very quick. Technology adoption is really driving disruptive innovations. But there's a thing called crossing the chasm that tech people understand. There's about 15% of the population that are called technology enthusiasts or early adapters. They put a bell and whistle on something and they're going to buy it, and no matter what. But that's only 15% of the market. Tech companies understand that they have to cross the chasm to get into the early majority. And that's not even enough. 34% is the early majority. They have to get into the late majority. And when you talk about the mobile phone, the cell phone, there's really two major corporations that are taking advantage, that are in the entire market. And that's the Samsung Galaxy and the Apple iPhone. They are serving the 7 billion people that have phones. That's disruptive innovation. Now let's talk about sustaining innovation. Sustaining innovation is absolutely necessary for every company in order to sustain their particular business. What it really is an improvement on existing products and services, improving existing products and services. It meets new demands of your current customers. You know your customers are changing. They're demanding better, improved products. That's what you have to focus on. Retention of existing customers. Retention of existing customers. Prioritize retention more than acquisition, because your existing customer base is the one you're serving on an ongoing basis. They're the ones sending in the money in order for you to thrive in the business. And they do not fundamentally change the market. Sustaining innovations don't change the market. They just make the products that you're selling better for the consumer. It helps incumbents very much to stay competitive, and it reinforces the incumbents' status quo. reinforces their market share. So if you're a market share dominant company, you need to spend time and focus on sustaining innovations, a continuous replacement of old products with new, better products. Let me give you some examples. This was at the time in 1876, a disruptive innovation. After that, it was all sustaining. Everything after that was sustaining, an improvement on existing products, a continuous replacement, okay? I hope that is clear. In the car industry, we see a tremendous evolution of the car from the 1908 Model T that my good friend Steve Brown still owns. Anyway, the cars have changed dramatically, and it's a continuous replacement of old products to new products. Now, let's get into efficiency innovation. Efficiency. I talked about disruptive and I talked about sustaining. Now let's talk about the third piece of information from Dr. Christensen, and that is efficiency innovations. Focusing on doing more with less. And that means reducing costs, increasing productivity, optimizing the processes of manufacturing, and in some cases, reducing the workforce. You know, your biggest expense is your payroll. And when times get rough, that's one of the first things you do is lay off people and reduce your workforce. Efficiency innovations sometimes do that. And it's all to improving your profitability. It's streamlining operations to free up resources. Every business needs to do that. Highly competitive and commoditized markets absolutely need to focus on efficiency innovations. It's to reduce the cost of making and distributing a product. Let me give you some examples. Are you familiar with McDonald's? Well, they eliminated someone taking your order. They've got machines now that do that. At Newark Airport, there's a restaurant. I took this picture of a restaurant that nobody takes your order. You have to put your order in on this machine, and then one day some robot's going to deliver the food, I think. This is the self-serving checkout counter. You're all familiar with it, right? Now, more and more people are getting used to it. More and more people are using it. It's an efficiency innovation. Robots are used in factories all over. This is one out of Amazon. You may not be ready to hire a robot to cook your dinner at night, but car companies are hiring and buying robots, gangs of robots that are AI powered in order to make the cars that they make. Again, this is all efficiency innovations to reduce the cost of making and distributing product. Let me get back to Walmart's Employee of the Month, the self-checkout counter. I think most of you, including me, the one thing that is a pain point is after we do shopping and in a grocery store, we got to wait in line to pay for the merchandise that we just bought, right? It's the checkout counter. That's a pain point. Here's what's happening with efficiencies with a lot of companies that are looking at how can they eliminate the checkout counter. You got fast food kiosks, Sam's, Kroger, and BJ's. They have what they call scan and go. You scan the product on your cell phone and put it in your cart, and you don't have to check out because it's all on your cell phone. And Amazon is doing one step further by having an Amazon Go and a Whole Foods, which they own. Whole Foods is a property of Amazon now, where the minute you take it off the shelf and put it in the cart, it registers on your phone. And if you decide not to buy it, you can put it back on the shelf and it deducts it from your cell phone. All of this is customer-centric. Customer-centric, and at the same time, it's efficiency innovation. That's what we're talking about, efficiency innovation. And let me put a couple that they're test marketing right now. Grocery shopping can be a chore. Suppose you go into a store that there's no product at all. no product, just pictures of product on a wall. And all you have to do is go to that particular picture of the product that you want to buy, and you can load it into your cell phone by touching it or scanning it. And there's a robot in the back room that's pulling your order and delivering it, the entire order, to your car while you're shopping. Okay? Some of you may be traveling by bus or train to your workstation. Well, suppose in the train station, and this is an actual train station, where the wall is made up of pictures of products that you can buy. So on your way home, you go to the wall, you load in the products that you want on your cell phone, and Uber or some robot driving a car will deliver your merchandise, your groceries, to your front door before you even get home. That's called efficiency, innovative, disruptive, sustaining, whatever. It's disruptive innovation in the digital age. Tom Friedman, and if you ever read a book, The World is Flat, this is his conclusion, that the world is flat, and that means that we are now connecting all the knowledge centers on the planet together into a single global network. If politics and terrorism don't get in the way, could usher in an amazing era of prosperity and innovation. I agree with that. And I think we're seeing, and as politics and terrorism don't get in the way, we could see an economic boom like never before. Any questions before I close? I always like to do that, because if you have any questions, there's my email address. Please just send me an email and I'll be glad to communicate. I'd like to close this with two specific slides very quickly. And it's a lesson that I have with my students at Monmouth University. I asked them, what will disappear in your lifetime? But actually, what will disappear in the next 10 or 20 years? And this is what they came up with. Things like the post office disappear. We're talking about disappearing. The bank check, the newspaper, the book, the manila files, the landline. How many use a landline or a fax machine anymore? Cursive writing, music players, movie theaters, network television, what you own, driving a car, your privacy, credit cards, checkout counters. This is what my students came up with. You can probably add to it, but clearly in the next 20, 30, 40 years, most of this will not be existing. The next lesson is, okay, now that we've eliminated all this stuff, what's going on in today's world? What, as Bobby Dylan said, times they are a-changing, okay? What are the most influential things that are going to happen in your life in the next 20, 50 years? 3D printing, artificial intelligence, Airbnb, Amazon, Apple, Butterfly IQ. I don't know if you heard of that, but that's a wand that doctors can connect to their phone and see into your body. Drones, generation AI, indoor farming, LED, Li-Fi, Metaverse, Microsoft, Neuralink, renewables, robots, on and on and on. Okay? These are things that the next generation, the next 50 years, will be a prominent influence on everyday living. And don't forget this too, that's having a Trump 2.0. Maybe the biggest disruptor of all time is Donald Trump. Bottom line is smart anything everywhere, and many, many more to come. And this is the last question I ask my students. Will your future be better than my past? Thank you for listening. And don't forget, Neuralite, natural LED. Stay well and see you next month.